This is Video Investigation 3 by Isabel Romero. This week we've been covering mass movement. To better understand mass movement, we have to ask ourselves, why is weathering and erosion important? Well, weathering and erosion are both contributors to the rock cycle. The two processes create the Earth's landscape. Rocks break down to form new rocks, which allows the Earth's surface to change. Without weathering and erosion, the Earth would remain the same as physical weathering breaks down rocks. The simplest action, like the wind blowing or water flowing over a rock, is physically weathering a rock over time. As we can see in the image below, it's a brief timeline of a rock process where water enters the crevices of a rock. As it freezes, it expands, making the crack even deeper, and over time will eventually break the rock apart. Chemical weathering is when elements cause a change in rock's chemical compounds. Climate is a contributor in chemical rock weathering. Regions with high temperatures and water exposure cause the rock's minerals to chemically change faster than in cool climates. As we can see in the image below, generally a rock that are composed of unconsolidated rock with water, rain from water and carbonate acids, it will react with the regolith and break it down. Weathering the regolith leaves rock bits standing on their own, and it's how we get many rocks out of just one. Rivers create landscaping and move materials. Water is a major component of the transportation rock process. Rain not only weathers a rock, but also washing away little bits and pieces of it. The rapid flow of the river also creates canyons and valleys by eroding the surrounding rock. As we can see in these images, I've got a image here of a river where we can see the water flowing, and we can see where the rock has been cut by the water and has been shaped. Up above we have a meandering river that's created the U shape. As we can see, it looks like it's kind of closing off from it and creating a river separate from it, which we'll. Our oceans and coastlines are also being impacted by climate change. Oceans themselves, due to the rising amounts of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, they're absorbing more of the gases and becoming extremely acidic. This rise in acidity doesn't allow for calcification of coastal and marine ecosystems. As we can see in the image here, it shows how the change affects marine life. Here we have a full shell, fully developed. In the middle we have one that is semi-developed, and at the end showing the effects of the CO being absorbed from the atmosphere. It wasn't able to develop and calcify fully. Coastlines. Our coasts are also being affected by rising sea levels. They're affecting the changes as far as the frequency and the intensity of the storms that are hitting coastlines, as well as the warming temperatures that contribute to shoreline erosion. As we can see in this image below, the water rising has actually gone quite a few yards into the coastline. Here we see a roller coaster that at one time was part of probably an amusement park, and now is completely submerged in water, no longer usable. Water pollution also affects our coastlines by causing contamination not only to the waters and the shores, but to the marine life in the oceans. I think alpine glaciers change the landscape more because they pluck rocks and create U-shaped valleys and mountain peaks. The alpine glacier move very slowly across the earth. They are extremely hard and heavy, and they erode the rocks in their path. The glacier is able to create a valley where a mountain once was. This is how glaciers play a major role in the process of erosion and the rock cycle. As we can see in the image here, we can see the snow that's fallen on the top of the mountain peaks. It's compacted to form a valley glacier, and it is slowly moving down the mountain, creating a U-shaped valley. Here we can see a live picture of an alpine glacier just to get an idea of how dense the snow is up on top. Here we see a peak just kind of sneaking up. And then over here we have an image of what is left behind once a glacier has completely melted. We can see the U-shaped valley as well as the horns, a tarn that's been left behind, and all of the moraines from the actual glacier sliding down the mountain. The worst type of mass wasting is probably landslides, as they are extremely damaging to the area when they occur. They've claimed over hundreds and thousands of lives during the 21st century. The worst probably being the landslide of Haiyun in China in December 16, 1920. The landslide itself was actually triggered by an earthquake, and here you can see a picture from the 1920s just kind of showing all of the debris that slid down the mountain, completely destroying the majority of the village. The most interesting geological process associated with deserts, I believe, is the basins. Water is rare in the deserts. Little water deposit in the desert is only present due to rain. Streams produced by the rain originate at the mountaintops and produce enough water for the stream to pass through the desert and settle in the basin. Here we can see the Badwater Basin, which accumulates the rainwater that trickles down the streams from the mountaintops. So the lakes that form in the basins during these rare periods of rainfall, they quickly evaporate, leaving a dry lake bed. Playa lakes are formed in basins and consist of salt that were carried in by the streams and deposited during evaporation. These deposited salts give the appearance of white sandy beaches. The agent that creates the most change over time, I believe, is rivers. Rivers are able to carve out their paths as they move along. Rivers are responsible for some of the most breathtaking natural wonders of the world. Here I have a few images that you can see. We have the Grand Canyon that was carved out by the Colorado River. This next image here is actually the Li Wu River in Taiwan. It's a river that's cut through marble itself, just to create its own stream. And then our last photo here is of Niagara Falls, which has also created some breathtaking images for the world to see. The water falling down the falls has eroded the rock, creating the spectacular natural wonder that we see today. Thank you. That is my presentation. Here's my works cited page.